Some trees can come back from the dead and, well, some just can't.
Yeah, it's a pretty stark biological dividing line.
It really is. Like if you hike through a landscape that was recently just ravaged by fire, and you look at a coast redwood that's been burned to a black charred spire.
Just a totally destroyed tree.
Right. It looks fundamentally destroyed. But if you just give it a little time, it will sprout a completely new crown of green needles straight out of the charcoal.
Which is just, I mean, it looks miraculous.
It does. But then if you take a pine tree right next to it and that fire reaches its crown, it is dead forever.
There's no second act.
Exactly. Yeah. Welcome to episode 8, The Conversion. This is our deep dive into what ecologists call vegetation-type conversion.
And our mission today is really to dig into the mechanics of this. We aren't just observing that certain forests in the West, like the conifer forests and the Santa Lucia Mountains, aren't coming back. We are taking apart the mechanical engine, gear by gear, of exactly why.
Right. And I want to set expectations for you, the listener, right out of the gate.
Yeah, because this will be our most rigorous, fair-minded deep dive yet. We are going to build the hypothesis of vegetation-type conversion at full strength.
No straw men here.
No, we'll build the case, and then we will hand it straight over to its sharpest critics to completely tear it down. And honestly, you won't know which side wins until the very end.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to understand how a forest dies, we first have to understand the difference between how two completely different types of trees survive.
Which brings us back to that biological dividing line you mentioned.
Right, the resprouters versus the feeders. Let's do the resprouters first.
Okay, so resprouters are your coast redwoods, coast live oaks, tan oaks, and, a vast majority of the shrubs in the chaparral ecosystem. For them, a wildfire is really just an inconvenience.
An extreme inconvenience, but yeah.
Right, but rarely fatal. If a fire burns through and kills the entire above-ground portion of the tree, the plant just relies on this thing called a basal burl.
I've actually seen those on redwoods. They look like these giant, knobby, woody growths right at the base of the trunk.
Yeah, that's them. And mechanically, they are essentially underground vaults of dormant stem cells.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And because they're buried at or below the soil line, they are heavily insulated from the fire's heat. So the moment the main trunk dies, those dormant buds just wake up.
They just answer back.
Exactly. They aggressively push up new shoots. I mean, after the massive Soberines fire, researchers looking at the Santa Lucia Conservancy plots found that most of the old-growth redwoods were rebuilding full canopies within just 6 years.
6 years? That's incredibly fast.
Yeah, even after being completely scorched.
So resprouters they're kind of like a hydra. You cut off a head with fire and two grow back.
That's a great way to look at it. But then you have the obligate cedars.
Right. The glass sculptures.
Exactly. Their margin of error is absolute zero. We're talking about ponderosa pines, sugar pines, and the highly rare Santa Lucia fir.
And they can't resprout at all.
Not physically possible. Their evolutionary strategy was to put all their energy into vertical growth and thick bark. So if the heat kills the crown, that tree is finished. The only road back is a brand new seed from a living, mature adult.
So shatter the glass sculpture and you have to build a new one from scratch.
Exactly. And that vulnerability is exactly what the conversion machine exploits.
All right. So let's turn the gears of that machine. The prosecution's case, basically. There are 5 gears here. And the first one is pretty straightforward. Kill the parents.
Yeah. High-severity crown fires. Historically, these forests saw low-severity surface fires. They just crept along the ground, burned dead needles, and the big adult trees survived to drop seeds the next year.
But that's not what's happening now.
No. In the Sierra Nevada and the Santa Lucias, we're seeing these massive crown fires that leap from treetop to treetop. And when that kills every adult across thousands of acres, it deletes the seed source entirely.
Which brings us to gear 2.
Right.
Because, I think a lot of people would ask, well, can't the seeds just blow in from the next mountain?
And that is the distance gear. Conifer seeds aren't dandelions. They don't just float for miles.
They're heavy.
Right. They're relatively heavy pine nuts with little wings. They rely on gravity and a stiff breeze, so they really only travel about 50 to 100 meters.
Which is what, like 1 or 2 tree heights away?
Basically. So if you're in the center of a massive burn scar, the nearest parent is completely unreachable.
You're just miles from a seed source.
Exactly. Regeneration studies across the West show this. Recovery just creeps inward at a few meters a decade.
Okay, so let's trigger the 3rd gear, which is really the climax of this whole machine, the 2 clocks. Let's assume a seed actually does arrive.
Right, by some miracle, a seed sprouts,
It immediately starts racing its maturity clock.
which takes about 15 to 25 years for a conifer to grow large enough to bear cones.
So it needs 2 decades apiece. But the second clock is the reburn clock. And if we look at the Santa Lucia fire chain, from the marble cone fire to the timber fire, the intervals between fires on the exact same ground went from 22 years down to 9, then 8, then 4, and then 6 years.
What's fascinating here is it's just arithmetic. A reburn clock running faster than the maturity clock is a forest elimination algorithm.
Wow, a forest elimination algorithm. That is chilling.
It guarantees they disappear. The first fire wipes out the adults, and the subsequent fires incinerate the juveniles before they hit puberty.
So even if a seedling sprouts, it gets deleted by the math.
Exactly. But let's say it survives the fire clock. It still hits gear 4, the drought filter.
Right, because the climate itself has fundamentally shifted.
Yeah. Kimberly Davis and her team published this massive study in 2019 looking at low-elevation pine forests. And they found that a critical climate threshold has been crossed.
So the adult trees that used to be there, they were basically holdovers from a cooler century.
They established their roots in a totally different era. But a new seedling today, it just bakes in the hotter, drier summers. Stevens Ruman's team found the same thing in 2018 post-fire conifer regeneration, just dropped off a cliff after the year 2000.
It's just too hot for the seeds to survive.
Yeah.
Which leaves us with bare ground. And that triggers the final gear, gear 5, the grass fire cycle.
Right. Defined by D'Antonio and Vitosek back in 1992. Into all this empty, baked dirt, you get an invasion of Mediterranean annual grasses.
Or brought over during the ranching eras, right?
Exactly. And these grasses fundamentally alter the physics of the landscape. They grow fast, but then they cure into standing bone-dry tinder by early summer.
So they carry fire incredibly fast.
Way faster than shaded forest floor. And the kicker is, they recover from fire the very next year.
Oh, wow. So it's a trap.
It locks shut. More grass fuels faster fires, which clears out any remaining shrubs or saplings, making room for more grass.
So just to recap the machine, kill the parents with crown fires, outrun the seeds, reburn the juveniles before maturity, bake the survivors in a hotter drought, and then lock the door with invasive grass. I mean, the prosecution rests. The conifers are doomed.
It seems like a closed case, doesn't it?
It really does. But here is where the dossier gets really interesting. Because if you go out to the Santa Lucias a few years after a fire, the land is not a dead moonscape.
Not at all.
It becomes violently green again. You've got oak, ceanothus, manzanita. It's alive. So isn't calling this ecosystem collapse just, well, a human prejudice?
And that is the defense. We are going to steelman this with real conviction because the counterargument here is incredibly strong.
So let's hear the trial of the brush.
Well, researchers like John Keeley point out that chaparral is an ancient, spectacularly biodiverse, fire-adapted native ecosystem.
It's not just brush.
Calling it brush is a value judgment. It comes from early foresters who only cared about harvestable timber, board feet of pine. But these chaparral seeds have thick coatings that actually require the heat of a fire or the chemical signature of smoke just to germinate. They are born for this.
Which brings up the baseline problem. When we say we are losing the forest, what are we measuring against?
Exactly. We usually measure against aerial photos from the 1940s.
Which was the peak of the whole smoky, bare, aggressive fire suppression era.
Right. For 70 straight years, we suppressed natural fires. And because of that, we artificially allowed conifers to inflate their territory.
Oh, I see.
The Santa Lucias were never a solid wall of timber. They were always this patchy mosaic. The conifers were really just clinging to rocky refugia cliffs and deep canyons where fire couldn't easily reach.
So by putting out every fire, we let the pines creep out of their safe zones.
And heavily colonize areas they hadn't naturally held. So the defense argues that this isn't an unnatural ecosystem collapse. It's just the landscape violently returning to its historic, patchy mosaic baseline.
Okay, that is a compelling defense. But the dossier has this incredible twist. If you look at Southern California, the leading type of conversion runs the exact opposite way.
This is crucial research from Seifert, Keeley, and colleagues. They looked at the Santa Monica Mountains from 1943 to 2014, and they found that the victim of conversion down there isn't the forest. It's the native chaparral.
The brush itself is being destroyed.
Yes. It is turning into exotic annual grassland. 36% of the plots that were healthy chaparral in 1943 have lost some or all of their native shrub cover.
Wait, how is a fire-adapted brush dying from fire?
Because of that same arithmetic we talked about. Too much fire. When a fire returns every 5 to 8 years, it exhausts even the chaparral's legendary basal burls and seed banks.
So the villain isn't the brush at all. The brush is just a victim of the exact same short-interval reburn clock.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have two incredibly strong, heavily researched arguments. How do we honestly adjudicate this?
We have to look at the scale. If we're looking at the sweeping claim that all western forests are turning to brush, that fails entirely. The steelman defense wins there.
Because the landscape is naturally a mosaic, and chaparral is native and vital.
Right. But if we look at the scoped claim, specifically the conifer islands of the Santa Lucias, the arithmetic is devastatingly true.
Especially for the Santa Lucia fir.
Yes. This is an obligate cedar that exists nowhere else on Earth. There are only about 1,000 mature trees left, clinging to steep cliffs.
And their historical fire interval was, what, decades? Centuries.
Yes. But now, they are getting hit with massive fires an average of every 8 years. They are losing ground they mathematically cannot repurchase.
The conversion machine is literally checking off the list of their demise.
Exactly. They can't root sprout, their heavy seeds don't travel, they bake in the drought, and the reburn clock incinerates the juveniles.
You know, there is a really quiet, striking moment in the source material from the compiler of this dossier, Nick McKenzie. He shared this 50-year personal memory. Over 5 decades of watching these specific ridges in the Santa Lucias, he realized his measuring stick had changed.
How so?
Where he used to see the silhouettes of big pine trees against the skyline, he now only sees the smooth curves of brush. The only conifers left are the redwoods hiding down in the wet canyons.
And that personal memory is perfectly validated by the federal fire databases. The big seed-bearing trees on those dry ridges are just vanishing.
Which brings us to the ultimate test of any scientific theory: falsifiability. What would prove this thesis wrong?
Is it highly falsifiable? To prove the conversion machine wrong, we just need to see a few things. We need to see conifer seedlings surviving the summer droughts deep inside the 2020 Dolan fire footprint.
Or we'd need the conservancy plots to show that recruitment, baby trees growing up, is actually keeping pace with the adult mortality.
Right. Or, most simply, we would just need a 20-year gap in the regional fire chain to let one full cohort of new seedlings reach puberty.
But are we seeing any of that?
Currently, no. None of it is happening. The numbers are doing the arguing, and they point unequivocally toward localized conversion.
So the pines aren't coming back in those scoped areas. Which brings us to the final question for you listening to this. Planetary accounting. Why does a patch of lost pine on a cliff matter to someone hundreds of miles away?
Because a forest is a physical ledger of stored carbon. Centuries of withdrawn CO2 are locked in that wood.
And if those conifers burn down and they are permanently replaced by shorter, faster-burning grasses and shrubs,
then that stored carbon doesn't come back either. We've always assumed forests are these massive carbon sinks.
But with this conversion machine running across millions of acres in the West, what happens when the ledger flips?
What happens when the forests give back more carbon than they take in? That is the terrifying accounting waiting for us in episode 9.
Like and subscribe. It really helps the channel reach others.